Hello, Addison Binek. How did you get into YouTube production, and what is your channel about?
Well, I've had my YouTube channel since probably 2009 or 2010, and it just kind of started out making goofy videos with my friend and roommate at the time. We were just kind of goofing around and making videos about, the antics about roommates living together and everything, and we did a couple episodes of that, but I wanted to actually try and do like bad movie review videos and stuff. My favorite show is Mystery Science Theater 3000, and I always kind of wanted to make a show just like that. But at that time in 2010, 2011, you couldn't upload videos on a normal YouTube account past like 15 minutes long. So instead of doing like a feature-length riff of films, I just kind of would watch a movie and jot down bullet points or time codes about certain areas of the movie that I should maybe talk about or riff on, and I would make 15-minute reviews. This is not my term. I've heard it used before about my videos. Call it riff viewing, where it's like a review of the movie, but I'm riffing on the clips too. So I did many of those for years, where it was about 15-minute long riff views about certain movies, just bad horror films. And eventually in 2016, I did one for the film Rabid Grannies, which was distributed by Troma. And when I posted the link on Twitter, Troma liked the tweet and retweeted it. So I just kind of thought, well, that's a pretty good sign. So I hit them up and I asked them, hey, could I maybe produce content for Troma? And they gave me Lloyd Kaufman's contact information. We exchanged some emails, and he said that he was actually going to be in my neck of the woods, so for a horror convention. So when the time came, I went to that convention just to meet up with him and get some autographs, and I pitched him Masterpiece Theater. Because at the time, I still couldn't upload videos past like 15 minutes long. And if I wanted to do a feature-length riff of a Troma film, I needed just distribution. So I thought, okay, well, I'll give it to them. They'll put it on Troma Now, which is their like Netflix-type streaming website. Like you pay $5 a month and you have access to thousands of movies in their library. And so I thought, I'll make this, give it to them, and they'll put it on Troma Now. So he gave me the go-ahead. But eventually, by the time I was done with it a year later, YouTube had changed their policies, and you could actually upload videos, up to an hour and a half, 2 hours in length. So I uploaded my first episode of Masterpiece Theater, which is just Mystery Science Theater with Troma films. I was able to upload it to my own YouTube account, but they put it on Troma Now as well. So, you can watch it on my YouTube account, their YouTube account, Troma Now. It's on DVD as well. It took a couple of years before I was able to do anything that got their attention. I had to do close to 100 episodes of my riffing show before that, called Movies to Watch on a Rainy Afternoon, and those are only about 15, 20 minutes long. But it took about 3 or 4 years to be able to do the feature-length riff that I actually really wanted to do from the start.
Very interesting. How did you fall in love with Troma movies?
Oh, well, I've been a fan of Troma since I was like 12 years old. Back in the days of going to the video store and just renting whatever thing looked interesting. I'm pretty sure the first one I ever rented was Toxic Avenger, and then I just went from there. But when I was in 7th or 8th grade, I was obsessed with their film Terror Firmer, which is it's sort of a satirical, fictional, autobiographical account of a Troma movie. It's a Troma movie about making a Troma film. Lloyd Kaufman plays, not himself, but he plays a blind film director who is making a Troma film. They're making the Toxic Avenger Part 4. This was right before they actually made Toxic Avenger Part 4. But it's a serial killer is running loose on the set and killing cast and crew. And it's a very absurd, disgusting, over-the-top, hilarious film. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I got all the references because I had seen a lot of Troma films by the time I saw that one. And I love that movie so much that I had an English class where the assignment was I had to write a persuasive speech about whatever topic I wanted. Some people were taking it super seriously and writing like political stuff, trying to sway people into politics. And it's like, dude, we're like 11, 12 years old. Like, who cares about this? I wanted to write about a persuasive speech about why people should watch the movie Terror Firmer. So I a graphic detailing about all these horrific scenes of people being dismembered, but it's all, fake, and it's all over the top and crazy and hilarious. Like, the special effects were made for a nickel, so they don't look very convincing, and that's part of the humor of it all. But my teacher was horrified, and so she made me take my essay home to my parents. My parents had to read it and acknowledge it and sign my essay, and I had to take it back to class. But she was actually upset that my parents didn't care, because it was my dad who bought me the DVD in the first place, so he knew what I was watching. My mom didn't care, so she gave me a bad grade. It was probably like a C or a D or something, but I thought I did a good job. And about 5 people in my class probably ended up borrowing my copy of Terra Firma. So if that doesn't deserve an A, I don't know what does. My persuasive essay worked. So it's funny to me that, that was just me being a fanboy and writing a persuasive essay in, 7th, 8th grade about why this movie rules. And, all these years later, now I'm doing like a mystery science theater show with Troma Films.
So how would you say you put your personal stamp on your riff track videos to distinguish yourself from other guys who do this?
Well, me and my friends, we just have like a different sense of humor than, like with Mystery Science Theater and Riff Tracks, they try to, I think, keep their riffing cleaner, and they riff on movies that don't necessarily have like lurid or exploitive content or anything. Mystery Science Theater was on television, so they would have to chop out or censor any nudity or violence or swearing. We don't do that. We keep everything uncensored, and I think that's what distinguishes us from like Riff Tracks. Even Riff Tracks, even though it's not on television, they will riff on R-rated movies, but I've noticed that the movies that they pick sometimes are missing scenes, and I own the unriffed copies, and that's the reason why I bought the Riff Tracks in the first place, was because I kind of thought like, oh, that'd be a fun movie to see them riff. But then it's like, oh wait, like all the crazy stuff, the violence and gore and all that stuff is missing. Like the movie is censored. Like you that's not fair. So we riffed on Poultrygeist for our second episode of True Masterpiece Theater, and I didn't cut a frame. It's all there in uncensored glory. It's crazy, over the top, disgusting. And I think that's what I'm trying to push, is like, if I'm going to do my own version of Mystery Science or Riff Tracks or whatever, I want my content uncensored. I want the movies that we riff on to be crazy and, like grindhouse stuff, but not to censor everything. So I think maybe it caught some people off guard who are Mystery Science Theater fans, because they're not used to that kind of stuff. They're used to watching Ed Wood movies from the 50s, black and white crappy monster movies. So when I shove something like Troma in their face and it's uncensored nudity and graphic content, I think it caught them by surprise, but hopefully they liked it. Hopefully they thought our jokes were still funny, and like, we'll swear and stuff, and we'll have, some, we'll throw some stuff in there that, maybe in bad taste or politically incorrect, like just to make it R-rated. That's just what we do, is we do the R-rated version of Mystery Science Theater, and I think that's what I want to continue to do, is just to make it different.
I dig it very much. So, how long did it take you to produce one of your videos originally, like, back in the day? And how long does it take to do it now? Typically.
I remember the first episode of Movies to Watch on a Rainy Afternoon I ever did was Cannibal Terror, because at the time, in like 2010, when I watched the movie with a couple friends of mine and we were writing riffs, at the time it was the worst movie I'd ever seen. It was just something that was in my DVD collection. I hadn't like flipped it or anything, like it was still in there. And so I just kind of decided, well, that's the worst movie I've seen up until now, so I'm going to use that as my pilot. And I mean, that took a couple months just because I didn't really know what I was doing.
Mm.
So, I mean, we sat there, we wrote the riffs, and I just kind of cobbled it together as a review, and uploaded the film onto my computer and sifted out the clips that I was looking for because I had written down time codes, and just kind of plucked them out, edited them together, and added some skits in between the clips. And I don't know, I mean, it took several months, probably 4 or 5 months, but now if I can get like 5 days of like maybe like 2 days off of work in a row, and then maybe like 3 more days where maybe it's like a half day of work or something, or I can work in the morning and wake up and edit it and then go to work and come home and finish it. So it can take about 5 days now. So it's because I've done about 120 of them at this point since 2011. And I mean, there was one episode where I did it in 3 days. And it kind of depends too. Like if the movie itself is an hour long at most, then it takes less time to edit the clips because there's less material there that I have to sort of pare down. But if the movie is like 2 hours, then it might take a little bit longer to go through the clips and to find what I'm looking for and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I think like from October 2010 until about March 2011, like that's how long it took for me to make episode 1 of Rainy Afternoon. But the last episode I did, it was like for Thanksgiving, this last Thanksgiving. It took less than a week.
All right, so you definitely have some deep cuts with your videos, which is great because, we could go to you and we can find new movies. How do you find movies like Terror Tunes? How do you find these, frankly, shitty movies?
Terror Tunes was actually just a movie that I had remembered renting when it first came out in like 2002 or 2001. And I mean, I just rented that VHS many years ago, and I remember that one sticking out as particularly being awful. So that was kind of in the back of my mind, like maybe someday I'll do Terror Tunes, Sometimes it's like whatever kind of film I might be in the mood for, where it's like, okay, let's do a Troma one, or let's do a movie by Full Moon, or sometimes you're just on Amazon, and if you look on one crappy movie, it'll say underneath it like other people have customers who have bought this movie have also bought this, and so you click on that, and it's like, well, what the hell is this? I kind of want to see what this is. Or if I'm trying to do like a holiday special, like for Halloween or Thanksgiving or Christmas, then I just try to find some obscure thing, some obscure horror movie that happens to be maybe related in some way to that holiday, and I'll try to find something that people might necessarily have never heard of. Like for one of my past one of my past Thanksgiving episodes, the movie itself wasn't about Thanksgiving, but I did this movie called The Man Who Collected Food, and I particularly liked doing a movie like that because it was just about this guy obsessed with collecting cans of like vegetables and collecting boxes of cereal and all kinds of food, and he just kept it. He wouldn't actually eat the food. He was a cannibal, and he actually kidnapped and would eat people, and he would kept the food in pristine condition. And it was just a weird movie. It wasn't a bad movie, but it was a weird movie, and I thought it was weird enough to use as like a Thanksgiving special because it had themes of food. So sometimes I'll maybe stretch it a little bit like that, where it's like, all right, well, this movie isn't about Thanksgiving, but it's about food, and Thanksgiving is about food and eating, so I'll put the two together.
I dig it. So, I saw your video on Spookies, and I thought that was pretty funny. And then I watched Spookies afterwards, so there you go. So could you condense that video? Could you tell people what that one was about?
Well, Spookies was something that I made for a friend of mine. He runs a convention in Pittsburgh called Gross Fest. His name is Tim Gross. Like, that's actually his name. So he made a convention called Gross Fest. Like, it's not like a gross out convention. It's just him and
It's
his brother.
successful.
Yeah, it's him and his brother and a couple other volunteers who friends of theirs who they put together a convention, and it's like a horror con where people can, buy movies from vendors like myself and other people. And for the second annual Gross Fest in the summer of 2018, I asked him if I could do something for the convention. Like, he was a fan of Rainy Afternoon. I asked him, like, well, can I make a video to submit? Because they play movies all weekend during the convention. And he was like, yeah, and, do a Rainy Afternoon, do whatever movie you want. And Spookies just happens to be his favorite film. So I just randomly picked that movie because I knew he would appreciate it, and he loved it. So that was just kind of like not really a favor, but more of like, here's something special for your convention. I know this is your favorite film. It's not the best movie in the world, but it's very riffable. So I did the episode for him, and he premiered it. Like, it wasn't on YouTube first. I had made it and submitted it to him, and it had its premiere at this convention, Gross Fest. And then when I got home that weekend, I threw it up on YouTube.
It was funny. I like the intro a lot, where you said, they're not gremlins, they're not ghoulies, they're just kind of pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
Well, because, Spookies is just this oddball monster film where it's actually two movies spliced together, because halfway through production of the first movie, they switched directors, and half the cast and crew quit on them, so they had to finish the second half of the movie with a whole different cast and crew. So they basically just made a whole another film, and they cobbled it together, and it's very hard to follow and doesn't make much sense because the two movies were not meant to be together. Rather than two like short stories, they're like slammed together and intertwined, and it wasn't meant to be that way. And you have two different movies spliced together that bounce off each other and don't connect in any way.
Very groovy. So, do you think Frogs, which you've done a video for, is an eco-terror classic like I do?
Definitely. I mean, that was one where my mom actually had been pushing for me to see that movie, basically. Because that's a movie that she remembers seeing in her childhood and like freaking her out and stuff. And she would always tell me about, this killer frog movie, and the poster has like a frog with a hand in its mouth. I'd always seen that video cover, but I'd never actually seen the movie. And so finally I sat down a couple years ago with a friend of mine, and the two of us watched it for the first time. And I mean, it's not hard to write riffs for, a killer frog movie. But the thing that I thought was like most interesting about that movie was that it's not even about killer frogs. The frogs don't really do anything until the very end. It's mainly about like the snakes are killing people, and any other like wood-like creature, amphibian, they're all doing the killing, and like the frogs are like the ringleader. I don't know. It was really weird.
I enjoy it. I also like Them, the one with the giant ants.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too. Like, that's one where, because it's so classic, I don't feel like I should ever riff something like that. Frogs is cheesy and kind of, it's just sillier.
Sure. Oh yeah.
But Them that's a good one. I actually, when I was going to film school about 10 years ago, for one of our projects, we had to like just make a music video or something. So I used the song Them by the Misfits, and I cobbled together clips from the movie Them and put them together and made a movie clip montage music video out of the Misfits song Them.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I also like The Food of the Gods.
I think I've seen the second one. I've never seen the first one.
It's not bad. And Night of the Lepus. Anyways, eco-terror to me, it's something I dig very much.
Right.
Anyways, what's the best part about being a YouTube creator?
I mean, I like just the feedback. I mean, I like seeing people type their favorite riff or something, You know, like if they watch the video and there's jokes that stand out, that to me is the most rewarding part because it's like I put all this work and effort into something. I'm like, you know, a thumbs up is cool. Seeing the views go up is cool, but that's not like the interactive part. I like when they type like this joke is really funny and it's like, okay, we did we did it. We got it. That joke did work. Because because these are just YouTube videos, it's not like I'm in a room with anybody. I'm not watching it in a theater or anything. You know, I don't know what jokes work or not. So it's just kind of a guessing game. So when someone actually types their favorite riff that worked for them, that's my favorite part.
That's cool. So who are some YouTubers you look up to?
I don't really watch too much YouTube unless it's like I follow Kevin Smith, and so I'll watch like podcast stuff that he'll do.
Yeah.
Just because I'm a huge fan of Jackass, like Steve-O has his own YouTube. So Steve-O will post a new YouTube video a week, whether it's about like stunts gone wrong or just new material because they're not getting together anymore these days, so he's just doing his own stuff, and some of the stuff that he's putting out on YouTube is even wilder than the stuff that's been in a Jackass film. So to see that kind of content on YouTube for free is kind of nuts.
Yeah, YouTube really is the Wild West of content.
Yeah, it didn't used to be like that either. It used to be like heavily monitored, heavily censored, but I mean he's getting away with stuff on there that I'm very surprised. Like maybe it's just because he's a celebrity and his content might be monetized and might make a lot of money for YouTube, but I really don't know.
Okay. Interesting. So thank you very much for your time. I like your channel and I want to spend more time on it, and I hope other people check it out. So before I let you go, just let people know where they can find your content and maybe where they can reach you and tell you that they enjoyed your content. And then tell me, how's your quarantine going? And any plans you have for the future, creative plans.
All right. Well, I mean, on Twitter, it's just my name, Addison Binek. Same thing with Instagram and Facebook. I mean, it's all just my name, Addison Binek. Maybe like an underscore in between my first and last name on Twitter and Instagram. A lot of my material is just available for free on YouTube, or if you have a Troma Now subscription, it's on Troma Now as well. Any of the Troma related stuff, because I have about 6 or 7 rainy afternoon episodes with Troma films. DVDs are available on eBay and Etsy. Great movies to watch on a rainy afternoon. Collections are available there as well, and for Masterpiece. And I'm not really sure. I'm not working on anything at the moment. Just kind of working my day job and, just seeing where this quarantine goes, seeing what happens. I'm anticipating maybe a box of movies from the company Vinegar Syndrome, if you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
I have a friend who works for Vinegar Syndrome, and he might be sending a box of movies to me soon to sift through, see if I want to license them for riffing in the future. So I'm trying to do stuff, like a lot of the stuff that I have on YouTube, I didn't really ask permission to riff that stuff, but with Troma, I've always gotten permission from Lloyd first, and over the years, I've also kind of upset a couple directors by riffing their stuff, like Terror Tunes, for example. That director did not like my riff at all, and desperately tried to get it removed from YouTube. But because I wasn't like monetized or making any money off of it, they were unsuccessful. But I mean, he found me on Facebook and he told me how unhappy he was about that. But it's like, dude, I'm not the only person who thinks your movie is garbage. Like, if you go on IMDb, it has a 2.2. So it's like, don't come after me. Like, just because I'm using clips for it, like, I'm not the only one who thinks your movie sucks. Like, obviously, I'm in the majority here. But, I'm trying to actually get permission from filmmakers now, or the distributors of movies, because I kind of want to just make it more legit than I have been, so that I could sell DVDs and not get in trouble and stuff like that. Because I go to a lot of horror conventions and I sell stuff there. So I'm kind of crossing my fingers, hoping that I could make a package deal, license a couple of movies from Vinegar Syndrome, and see what where I can go from there with them. But I don't know what I'm receiving. I don't know if anything will be licensable that I receive. So that's to be determined. But that's what I'm hoping to do during quarantine is get this box of movies, watch them, and see if I can pluck out some stuff that I can pay to actually license. But I mean, that's just all kind of cross my fingers and being hopeful about it. No guarantees.
All right. Well, I'll say I do like Vinegar Syndrome, and I really like their blaxploitation. And I would love for you to do, Welcome Home, Brother Charles, the Rudy Ray Moore movies, Sweetback, and Putney Swope. Those are the ones I have, and that would be pretty cool if you did that.
It's up to them, whatever they want to license to me, whatever's available, because I was told that some of their bigger titles are not on the table just because they'd have to contact, the original director and get approval from them. So I'm assuming whatever I'm receiving will be really, really obscure stuff that they probably acquired on the cheap. And because I already asked, I asked if I could do Spookies again, but for a full feature length riff, like Tremasterpiece Theater style, but Spookies is not on the table because they don't own that, and it's one of their newer Blu-ray releases, so Spookies is not something that I could do. And they have a whole bunch of other really popular stuff that's not available to riff. But I was told that they're gonna send me something, so I'll see what it is.
I hope it's Disco Godfather.
I mean, yeah, they said whatever's in their back catalog, so whatever that is.
All right.
Well, their earlier stuff that they put out.
All right. Well, Addison, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.